Hello, my name is Chava Alexander, and today I would like to talk to you about my thesis proposal, which is called The Village Boheme, Legend of the Village. First, I would like to tell you a little bit about myself. I've been working in the field of usability for the past 5 to 6 years. I started with an interest in cognitive psychology, and coming from a family of computer scientists, I was very interested in usability. I moved out to San Francisco to study under Aaron Marcus, where I wrote and published a paper on cross-cultural design. And from there I got very interested in actually doing the design process. And I started attending the Academy of Art University in the Web Design New Media department. So now I'd like to show you my portfolio. Here are some pieces that I've done. I'll break it down, I'll show you a little bit of each one. My typography poster was on the font Clarendon. It was by Robert Beasley. He designed the font, and I wanted to capture how it was a wooden slab font. How to Break a Coconut is an interactive project that goes through steps on how to break a coconut. I wanted to make sure that it was extremely interactive, so there's interactive elements going throughout the website, as well as a little animation. Martian Travels is again an interactive site that teaches children about music. I can show you a little piece. World Music is again another music piece. It was done primarily in ActionScript. Visual Bliss Motion Graphics is a piece that I did for meditative motion graphics. My Visual Bliss poster, again, using technology in the visual sense to design for meditation. The Birds is a Maya piece that I did. Paula Scher is a poster that I did on the designer Paula Scher, who works a lot with typography. It's a New York-based designer. User Validation of a Cultural Dimensions of a Website Design is the paper that I told you that I had published. And then Gubogo is a site that I did for a company, and I did all the HTML as well as the CSS. So going back to my presentation, so I showed you work that I've done. I've told you a little bit about myself, but I want to get down to the meat of the matter. What is Le Village Boheme, Legend of the Village? Le Village Boheme is an interactive map that includes tours, that can be designed specific in terms of music, cultural, arts, and you can make a personal tour. Contains a timeline of the 1960s to the 1970s, includes personal stories, as well as a legend with link. The main purpose of Le Village Boheme, Legend of the Village, is it is an historical guide to Greenwich Village in the 1960s, 1960 to 1970. 1960 was the Beat Generation was going into changes. Barbra Streisand was on the scene. Bob Dylan arrived. And 1970 was when McSorley's in 1969 finally allowed women in, and the arrest of Angela Davis, a Black Panther and civil rights activist. And my focus is just to really pull in all of that cultural, all that information into one single site that's interactive, that draws the user in, and provides a deep understanding of Greenwich Village in the 1960s. So, who would use my site? Well, obviously historians, musicians, writers, people interested in the political movements, as well as tourists. When I first started doing research, the very first place that I went, way before I really had an understanding of what was going on, was the Stonewall Inn. In 1969, the Stonewall Inn riots occurred. This was the beginning of the gay rights movement. Before that, police would walk into bars and they would arrest individuals who were gay. They would beat them up. It was horrible. Well, one day, Stormy put down her foot. She was a transgendered woman and said, "No, you're not going to do this to me." And it's amazing that you walk down around Haight-Ashbury, around the Castro, around Greenwich Village, around Chelsea, and you see gays and lesbians, and it's okay. But 40 years ago, 50 years ago, it was not, absolutely not okay. And I was talking to some individuals that were like, you really, if you're going to do this kind of piece, you really need to reflect on the fact that it was women's liberation, that condoms and birth control and things like that were not looked at, that women were getting pregnant, and the right to have an abortion was impossible, that gays were getting beaten up, that there was the draft, anti-war movements, things like that. I want people to be exposed to the fact that 40 to 50 years ago was a huge change, and it started in Greenwich Village. So the information architecture is huge. I mean, you're going into the way that it's going to be designed. It's a map as well as a timeline that contains all the information of all different kinds of artists, writers, movements, things like that. It includes a walking tour, definitely a help section, the ability to design things for yourself, a legend, which is the story, as well as quick links. And the quick links is going to direct you to where everything is located for ease of usability. So this is my proof of concept. You see the tours, the map, the timeline, the legend, help, and about. And the initial view is a little taste of what, it's a motions graphics piece on what Greenwich Village was like in the 1960s through the 1970s. Then when you're getting in, you see the map, and there are buildings all over the map. This is like a far out look. I'm going to show you an in close look. So when you start mousing over everything, you have this small map in the corner to show you where you're at. And then also the buildings, and when you mouse over them, it shows what buildings are there. And then you can also click on the buildings and find more information about them. For example, the Stonewall Inn, the Stonewall Riots. You have interviews, external links, as well as my story, and I'll tell you about my story in a minute. This is the timeline. And here is information about Bob Dylan's arrival. And so Bob Dylan arrives, and you have a piece for adding my story to information about Bob Dylan. So that you can view other stories on what they've said about Bob Dylan, if they've known him, what they've experiences they've had with their music, things like that. You can also add to your story, add your own personal story with a title, story, image, and share personal facts about what you know. And this is the legend. The legend gives an actual overview story of everything that happened. In the 1950s, the Beat Generation was formed by Allen Ginsberg. And then obviously it just goes through with hot links, quick links, that it can guide you through different parts of the website. This is the quick links I was referring to before. And walking tours. So you can have walking tours that are already set, such as walking tours based on the artists and writers, the gay rights, music, and even personalized tours where you can pick out what you want to see, and then it's designed for your view. For example, you can see it here. This is a personalized tour. These are the places that you want to go to, so you can be directed towards each individual one and learn a little bit of history on each different part. This is the technical mood board. This is my visual mood board. So going back to the technical mood board quickly, obviously you're going to have film, photography, interviews, the buildings, the timeline, the computer. And the visual mood board I want to be really colorful, really hip, really historical, the hippie movement, Bob Dylan, all that kind of information, Washington Square Park, the Village Voice. And this is my timeline. Finding user needs, collecting information, sketches, the information architecture, wireframes, sitemaps, prototypes, the interface, visual layout, implement ActionScript and programming, finalize research and design, debugging, user testing, and thesis writing and revision. And I'm going to be starting in June and it's going to last for 1 year. So what technology will be used? I want to be able to implement this on an iPad, and so I'm going to have to know HTML5, CSS3, JavaScripting, Flash for the animation. I want to focus on Sandy and Paper Vision, After Effects for the motion graphics, Logic Pro, Photoshop, Illustrator, as well as a camera and camcorder for documenting footage that I see. The classes I intend to take in the summer, I want to take Web Tech 2, and then Developing Story. And in the fall, I want to take User Experience, Scripting, as well as Creative Writing for my Legend portion. And this is the time that I would like to ask if anyone has any questions. Thank you for your time.